just keeps on growing. Canada, now secretly involved in the French Legionnaire plot to assassinate Charlie Kirk, in bed with Benjamin Netanyahu and Mossad, working for the Israeli government to now take out Candace Owens over Brigitte Macron's penis. It's gotten real messy, to say the very least, to the point where there's one of two outcomes that is happening publicly right now before the eyes of the world. You are either witnessing someone who genuinely believes what she talks about and is actually in the midst of a pretty public meltdown, as well as one that could have very dangerous implications for a lot of people who are connected to her, or she is a lifelong grifter who is now flailing, and in the midst of flailing is having a bit of trouble doing that. If you don't know what just happened recently, there's two separate stories. One of the stories is obviously Candace Owens, since the death of Charlie Kirk, has taken it very, very, let's just say, powerfully. She was very close to Charlie Kirk. They toured together. They worked a lot of the time behind the scenes. A lot of people were pointing out that she seemed to be one of the only people on the right who actually was sad about Charlie Kirk's death and actually was posting videos about all the fun times they'd had together, and really seemed like it was someone mourning the loss of a friend whom she cared deeply about. And that was pretty fascinating to see for someone who, again, is such a hate monger of the highest degree. The other possible outcome that is happening right now is that she is realizing very quickly that she is in a lot of legal trouble. A lot. Basically, Candace Owens has gone through the trouble of publicly stating that the First Lady of France, Emmanuel Macron's wife, Brigitte, is in fact secretly a man with a penis. This was a conspiracy theory that was basically relegated to far-right podcasts in France and wasn't really something that was an international story. There was a very far-right podcast in France that started proposing it based on nothing, and that basically, I think, is where it would have stayed. And Candace Owens decided to take that podcast, believe it, and she went through the trouble of producing a multi-series documentary called Becoming Brigitte, talking about how she had investigated and uncovered the truth that Brigitte Macron, in fact, secretly has been a man this entire time. Now, there's a lot of really fucked up things you could have said about Brigitte Macron, that she groomed Emmanuel Macron from the point that he was a minor up until the point where they had a sexual relationship. That is more accurate and certainly a very fucked up story, one that I think you could very quickly be like, this was wrong. This was fucked up. If you hate, Brigitte Macron and you want to go after her, that's certainly an angle you could go at that no one would be able to litigate against you. But no, Candace Owens is a transphobe who wanted to spread more transphobia, and this angle to her was just too juicy. And it's something that no one else besides Candace Owens really ever took to such a degree and tried to popularize, because I think on some level they knew, or they have legal teams who would have told them, don't do this. You could get sued into oblivion because the woman you are claiming is a man has 3 children. We know because she's a transphobe, Candace Owens does not believe in trans men or the fact that trans men exist or the fact that trans men can give birth. So this has nothing to do with that. She is claiming that Brigitte Macron is a trans woman and is actually secretly a cis man, and as a result of being a cis man, has been hiding from the world that she secretly has a penis and in fact did not give birth to anyone. So what happens? They ended up suing her, and they ended up suing her for a large amount of money, and that lawsuit is still ongoing. But in the midst of that lawsuit, Brigitte Macron has provided evidence to the court to demonstrate that she is in fact a cis woman. And that evidence includes pregnancy photos, as well as a lot of medical information about the births of her 3 children. And that, I think, is enough at this point to realize that Candace Owens is decidedly going to lose this case. She'll probably have to settle before it gets too expensive. Things are not looking good to her, case-wise. And in the midst of all this, Candace Owens has revealed in the last couple of days that something new has happened. It turns out that she was right. Brigitte Macron is a man. And in addition to that, now the French government is trying to assassinate her. And she has been nonstop rage tweeting about this, that the government of France is trying to kill an American podcaster because she is the only person on the planet who got the evidence, who presented the truth, and who revealed to the world Brigitte Macron has a penis. Oh, I got so far. I can't believe I broke. It's just so ridiculous. I'm no fan of the Macrons, all right? I'm certainly not going to stand here and defend Brigitte Macron and all the fucked up stuff she's done in her history. But this was always so ludicrous to me that you were actually going to go the distance on this rather than simply, like, just to be clear, if you are being sued, there are demands that are usually made within the context of that lawsuit for something like libel or defamation, where you have an off-ramp, and the off-ramp is usually not as expensive in any way as getting litigious, as going to court, as having a trial by jury, any of that kind of stuff. So Candace Owens could have come forward, she could have deleted or taken down every single instance of becoming Brigitte, all her episodes talking about Brigitte Macron's penis, all this kind of stuff, and then made a public apology. That's not who she is, all right? Because again, that would be very devastating to her brand. That would look really bad. It would basically, you know, be something that she would have a lot of trouble recovering from. And again, she's also very, very famous now, doing really, really well in the pundit circuit. So you don't want to be the conspiracy theorist who had to come forward and be like, you know, read one of those clearly written by a lawyer statements, right? Like, under the advice of my lawyers, while I still maintain that I always strive to seek the truth, it is indisputable to claim that Brigitte Macron, in fact, does have a penis because of the fact that she, in fact, has had 3 children. This would, in fact, verify, as I have often said, only biological females can have children. And in this case, she has them. So it's, you know, she doesn't want to do that. And so now she's saying that apparently she's about to be assassinated. She's even taking a week off of streaming and producing content because she has to prepare for what she thinks is going to be an all-out war between, again, an American YouTuber slash podcaster and the entire government of France. To anyone who's watching this from France, by the way, if there's any French people watching, I don't know what stuff is like on that side. I don't know if in France this is something that the media is reporting on or taking seriously, or being like, you know, je ne sais pas, qu'est-ce qui se passe? But our show will be off the air this week. As an update, both the White House and our counterterrorism agencies have confirmed receipts of what I reported publicly. Emmanuel Macron attempted to organize my assassination, per a source close to the first couple. Also, I will state again that the French legionnaires were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, but they did not act alone. For all of you who doubted my claims, you can now look to the President of the United States and our intelligence communities to issue a statement to confirm whether I am telling the truth. Has that statement come out yet? Has Donald Trump said, yes, the U.S. State Department and our intelligence apparatus can confirm that French legionnaires were part of the conspiracy to assassinate Charlie Kirk in conjunction with the government of Israel? Because that's been her lane for a while. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It was most likely an assassination done by Mossad or some Israeli official as a result of Charlie Kirk never publicly, saying anything wrong about Israel. In fact, Charlie Kirk was probably one of the most vocal Zionists in the right-wing pundit circuit. However, privately, she claims that Charlie Kirk was having his doubts, and because he was starting to change his opinion on Israel, people like Bill Ackman, for example, were starting to get really upset about this, and were saying, like, oh no, he could be a danger to the entire secret operation, to be able to promote Israel. And that was her lane for a while. The thing that is new is that apparently now French legionnaires and the French government were also involved. So the conspiracy continues to balloon. Why are you explaining English to me like I'm not a native speaker? I said what I meant. They confirmed receipts of my claims. Obviously, they will have to investigate it and then inform the public as to whether or not I made it up, which I did not. By the way, these 115,000 likes, this 24,000 likes, people love what she is putting out there. I mean, it's just, it's so, like, you know, the Alex Jones of it all. My God. Government conspiracies, Mossad, Israel, involved with Brigitte Macron's penis, French legionnaires, all collaborating and conspiring. First they took out Charlie Kirk, now they're coming for her. She got too close to the truth, she did. We cannot live in a world where governments collude to protect Jeffrey Epstein and to murder Charlie Kirk. This doesn't work. We elect rulers who stay silent or choose to look the other way when children are being abused because of money or cowardice. This no longer works. I have informed people in the federal government and the White House of the France. Okay. I've informed people in the federal government and the White House of the France and Israeli assassination plot, and I'm willing to provide full details, as well as the name of the assassins and international counts in France and Canada. What? Now we're involved. My God, it just keeps on growing. Canada. Now secretly involved in the French Legionnaire plot to assassinate Charlie Kirk, in bed with Benjamin Netanyahu and Mossad, working for the Israeli government to now take out Candace Owens over Brigitte Macron's penis. Yeah, Canada, what you doing? Beyond that, I have shared more information with the public regarding the Brigitte story I was investigating at the time of Charlie's assassination. This is available on all my Instagram stories. Thank you all for reaching out and praying for my family. I mean, you know, hats off to you, madam. What a marketer. I would never think to go this far. You know, I guess I'm just not as brave as Candace Owens. At a certain point, when I know that I'm about to face a lot of financial consequences and potentially legal consequences, there's a certain point where you either, you know, shut the fuck up and just stop talking, or you kind of look for the off-ramp, right? Like, oh, this has gone a little too far here. I'm gonna have to stop trying to expand, you know, the Brigitte Macron universe, which he has now definitely expanded, and including the assassination of her close friend Charlie Kirk, and the Israeli government, the French government, now the Canadian government, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, but people are loving it. They are loving it because, again, she's not backing down. She's in fact fighting. She's growing the entire conspiracy. It's getting more and more wild day by day. And at this point, like, don't get me wrong here. It's very plausible that in the midst of all this, she has submitted some kind of a statement to the government of the United States. But I doubt that she has actually been in contact with any kind of government officials who have given her confirmation of any of these delusions. I don't know if you know this recently. She posted or did an entire special on her show about how she had evidence that was given to her. You know, she cannot reveal her sources because she's, again, a very professional journalist, about how flights were being demonstrated to have gone through various locations, flights out of Egypt that may have shown different individuals were potentially, you know, flying Charlie Kirk. And now she's found out that it was not Charlie Kirk that was being flown on these planes, that it was in fact Erika Kirk, which she, you know, just wanted to ask questions and put it out there. But she was like, you know, that's sussy-wussy for sure. Like, that's kind of weird, right? And we didn't know that, but now that we know that, this is certainly getting me asking a lot more questions. And then someone else revealed that the source was someone who was just trolling her and had, in fact, intentionally used, like, addresses when they were giving her the information of, like, her lawyers. So, like, it was the whole thing turned out to be a troll job. But she didn't back down from that. She actually doubled down once again and was like, hey, by the way, my source is 100% valid. No one actually knows the truth. Go check out CandaceOwens.com for the full story. Something else that's pretty wild. I don't know if anyone knows the tea, but apparently JD Vance's wife is no longer wearing a wedding ring. She's been cited without a wedding ring, which a lot of people were kind of like, oh, interesting. Well, what does this have to do with Erika Kirk? And what does this have to do with JD Vance, you know, potentially throwing her under the bus the other day in front of the Groypers? This is all 100% speculation, by the way. I would, if you want to know this, the reality of everything, I tell everyone this all the time, because while we all love conspiracies, you know, we all love to put on our Alex Jones hats for a little while and have some fun. The reality of the world is usually way more boring than conspiracy theorists want to paint a world picture for you. And what could have happened was, if you didn't know, at a Turning Point USA event, probably filled with groypers, JD Vance was being asked questions by people like, why are you married to someone who's also not a Christian or a Catholic? He happens to be in an interfaith marriage, you know, and previously Usha Vance had said that she's actually raising the children to be interfaith, which was something something that was understood. But then J.D. Vance went, while she's standing right beside him, and gave an entire speech about how, while he understands that his wife is not Christian, he hopes that eventually she will see the light and then come to the proper faith and convert. And he said that in front of a crowd of people while she's standing right beside him. Very disrespectful, very rude, and obviously not something you'd ever want to do in order to please, fucking disgusting ass incel groypers, throw your wife under the bus. But he did it. And so this could be an example of someone trying to assert, their own form of autonomy and be like, you know what, he is no more, I guess, attached to me than I am to him. Then yeah, I will go out in public without wearing my wedding ring because fuck that piece of shit. Could be that, right? That seems a little bit more plausible than there's an actual conspiracy that J.D. Vance is in fact having an affair with Erika Kirk, which a lot of people speculated, because if you didn't know, at that event where Erika Kirk was giving a speech when they first met, they gave themselves a very loving embrace, more so than any two Christians should ever do, especially if they happen to not be in a relationship with one another. But it was certainly kind of suspicious when you saw the two of them touching each other. You were like, Jesus Christ, get a room, you two. And then Erika Kirk went on a speech where she was just fawning over J.D. Vance. She was like, I see a lot of my husband in him, and it wasn't since Charlie passed that I'd seen anyone who, quite reminds me of him, like J.D. Vance. And everyone was like, whoa, that's also pretty fucked up and weird. But again, speculation, all weird. I don't think that any of it means anything outside of that until I saw this. Dun, dun, dun. Erika Kirk says Turning Point support of J.D. Vance in 2028 is in the works. So what's going on here? There is a new piece to the puzzle. Turns out that since Erika Kirk has taken over Turning Point USA, the entire organization, now Turning Point USA is going to be turning into a J.D. Vance election machine, which is kind of curious because at this point, J.D. Vance has not announced that he's going to be running for the president of the United States, even though that is usually presumed. The vice president does like to run from time to time. Doesn't always happen, but it does frequently happen. But there's other people who want the crown. Marco Rubio, little Rubio, he wants to run. So that's also interesting. We'll see. We also don't know if Donald Trump is going to step down at all. I think it's one of those things where no one knows if Donald Trump is going to run for an illegal third term because, Steve Bannon has stated that they can totally do that. And everyone's like, well, not according to the Constitution. And then he was like, we'll find a way. And so we'll see if he wants to do the dictatorship. If he does want to do a dictatorship, then, J.D. Vance will perpetually have to sit in the cuck couch, as it's known. But we'll see. More information has to come out about all that.
Something has shifted with Candace Owens, and if you've been watching closely, you can see the exact moment that it happened. Candace has always trafficked in controversy. That's her job. But ever since Charlie Kirk was shot and killed in September, something inside her cracked. Within weeks, Candace wasn't just arguing with liberals. She was accusing Israel of killing Charlie Kirk, the FBI of covering up plots, billionaires of threatening him, and the French government of trying to assassinate her. And what's spilling out now is less of her normal political commentary and something a lot more sinister, and honestly, a lot more concerning. The unraveling of Candace Owens. To understand how she ended up here, you have to start with the issue that shattered her career long before Charlie Kirk was shot.
My view is that, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state, and it is not above critique, and that what Bibi Netanyahu has done to the Palestinians since October 7th is a Holocaust.
It's the fight that ended her relationship with the Daily Wire.
I wish the best to the Daily Wire. I wouldn't change a single thing.
It's the issue she and Charlie never fully agreed on.
A child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
And it's the thing she now believes is tied to his assassination.
There were, for whatever reason, 12 Israeli cell phones on the ground at Utah Valley University the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Candace later claimed that in August of 2025, Charlie told people that he was pressured and even threatened by billionaire investor Bill Ackman during a meeting in the Hamptons about his comments on Israel and Gaza.
An intervention was staged by Bill Ackman because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. Bill.
Also, I just want to say about all this, because I've said it before, but I will repeat it here. I think this also has a little bit to do with the egos of YouTube and podcast personalities going wild and out of control. Because, like, I can't disprove the fact that Candace Owens is claiming that the French government, as well as French legionnaires, have secretly collaborated with Mossad, as well as, basically assassins under Benjamin Netanyahu, to take down rich and powerful influencers in the United States, who also, in the case of Charlie Kirk, were very avowed and public-facing Zionists who supported Israel, but had secret doubts behind the scenes, which I guess is enough. Like, that's enough for the whole thing to take place. Like, I don't know at what point she believes that people started to, like, make the calculations. Like, so every single time that Charlie Kirk is seen publicly speaking about Israel, he is very pro-Israel, and he is very anti-Palestinian emancipation or resistance. He says very racist things, very aggressive things, and often speaks about the glory and the necessity for Israel and a relationship between the U.S. and Israel to exist. That's the totality of his work. Any single time someone sees or hears him on a camera, that's what he says. Yes, that's good. There might be a text message conversation between himself and Candace Owens in which he expresses a couple doubts. And now he might not have a meeting with Bill Ackman. What? Oh, okay. Well, then, I mean, we got to do what we got to do. Yeah, you can't have doubts, right? No, things have gone too far. He's gotten too powerful, and he's questioning our loyalty too much. So we're gonna have to do something about that. Which again is very weird, because why wouldn't they have assassinated every other pundit who really speaks out against Israel on the right, like Candace Owens? Candace Owens, you'd been doing that publicly for a lot longer. Candace Owens had been speaking out. It was one of the reasons why her and Ben Shapiro ended up, kind of parting ways with the Daily Wire. She for a long time has been, I mean, don't get me wrong, she is like an avowed anti-Semite and has been for a long time. And has certainly been spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories outside of her hatred of Israel. She's one of the people in the Venn diagram where you were talking about people who hate all Jewish people and people who also criticize Israel. That's Candace Owens, right? That's her, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson. They're all in that Venn diagram. And again, those are names. Nick Fuentes has been doing it for his entire career. Tucker Carlson has been doing it a lot for the last couple of years. These are people who are very prominent. I would argue Tucker Carlson's more famous than Charlie Kirk was, and none of them have expressed fear at this point, that they felt that the Charlie Kirk assassination was also an attempted hit on them, as if, they were trying to take out every single right-wing podcaster or influencer who ever had the audacity to criticize Israel.
Be going on.
Well, in the case of Charlie Kirk, it's not even criticize Israel. It's criticize Israel apparently behind the scenes, and not even criticize them, but criticize his potential loyalty to Israel.
Bill Ackman was very upset, and threats were made.
But Ackman denied it outright. At no time have I ever threatened Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, or anyone associated with him. But Candace turns this alleged moment into a much larger narrative. Charlie criticized Israel, Charlie was threatened. Charlie felt unsafe, Charlie was killed. It became the emotional glue of her spiraling. Because once she believed that Israel killed Charlie for speaking the truth, it wasn't long before she believed they were coming for her next. The Kirk-Owens dynamic. Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk weren't just like colleagues. They toured together with Turning Point USA. They grew famous together. They sat in endless green rooms and airport lounges, prepping speeches and feeding off each other's energy. People genuinely saw them as a pair, different personalities of the same project. So when Charlie was killed on stage at Utah Valley University, this wasn't just a political earthquake. For Candace, it was like the core pillar of her life had been shattered.
I will never unsee the footage of what I saw, the violence of it. I pray for the people who took any pleasure in that. I would never, there's not a single person in the world that I would wish that on.
but then pretty quickly posted, "Be very wary and suspicious of the people who are already telling us to stop asking questions about the Charlie Kirk assassination." Suspicion took over grief, and she just went straight into full investigation mode. From here, the unraveling really begins.
I was not invited to speak alongside President Trump and J.D. Vance on the stage with Tucker Carlson at a memorial event. What does this have to do with anything? The answer is it has to do with nothing. They're working on a narrative like they always do. They're coming in, they're squeezing, and they're trying to pretend that Charlie and I didn't speak for years. It could not be further from the truth.
This was a major rupture. The movement that she helped build, the people she defended, suddenly closed ranks without her. She has shared a different old message, a real one, where Charlie said, "Since the beginning of TPUSA, I knew in my gut that I might get wiped out at any time." Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson did confirm that Charlie was frustrated with Netanyahu, but only Candace turned this into an assassination plot, some massive scheme behind the scenes. And from here, the spiral just continues. The theories keep coming. Once the Israel theory took shape in her mind, everything started to become connected. She claimed the footage from the shooting never existed. She suggested that someone faked evidence to frame the shooter. Candace publicly questioned whether Charlie's widow was behaving normally, saying,
"There's two things. She could be on autopilot, and some people could be reading that the wrong way and thinking, oh, well, she's not acting right. Okay, is she on autopilot because she fears something?"
This was a turning point because it's mean. It's mean to judge somebody's behavior and then decide it's because there's some sort of plot against them. It's also just quite odd.
Also, that was exactly, I think, what she has been really, really playing close to the chest, like for a very long time. Like her versus Erika Kirk, it is on the verge, obviously, and I think we might be getting to that tipping point right now, where she's never just outright said the words, "I think Erika Kirk is faking it," or "I think Erika Kirk isn't crying," or "I think Erika Kirk assumed power too quickly." But she has often said things like, it is unusual how most people, at one point or another, if they go through something very difficult, they might use that opportunity to, sit behind the scenes and grieve in private or stuff like that. But she has been very front-facing, and that is, I'm not really questioning her decisions. I would never do that. I'm more just asking what exactly is going on there. And it's a point of no return, right? Like she's gotten pretty close to it multiple times. But if you ever turn this into Erika Kirk is part of the conspiracy, which she's hinted at. She's gotten very close to that. She's done that one, clip that went really viral and all the right wingers like Steven Crowder lost their minds over, where she was like, the US government assassinates people all the time. They've assassinated people in the past. And what happened here, right? Like what happens when you get too close to the truth? Well, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say a lot without saying anything. But at the same time, I'm going to give myself, as always, plausible deniability so I can hide behind the potential of this. But if it ever actually reaches that point, because she's never fully attacked Erika Kirk, but she has been relentless at attacking Turning Point USA and everyone involved in Turning Point USA, and does show after show after show where she brings up people who work in the organization, brings out receipts, and some of them are just downright hilarious because it'll just be a photo of a guy that's kind of weird, and she'll be like, "I see you, I know what you're doing, look at this, didn't think this picture was gonna get out," and it's like a dude being strange and being lifted up by another dude or something, or being held by and you're just like, what's I don't know what I'm seeing at all. I don't know who this is, what's happening, what the context is, but you go for it. I obviously want her to keep doing as much as she can to keep pouring, again, jet fuel on this whole thing, right? And it's actually kind of sad that in the last week, things have gotten so bad for her that she's now spiraling into the French government is attempting to assassinate me. I have direct evidence of it. I've submitted the evidence to the Department of Defense and the FBI. The president himself, they will be making an announcement eventually about how I was right about everything. Like, obviously, this just seems like the ramblings of an Alex Jones. Like, you've gone full Alex Jones at this point. There's no coming back from that, right? Like, you've gone so far that you cannot use an off-ramp anymore. There are no off-ramps. There is no way for you to try and save face by being like, I was wrong. because what you would be wrong about is just so monstrous at this point that you cannot turn back. So she has chosen her course. This is where we're going. And I'm worried in some way that she's going to step back for too long, because she needs, again, to keep applying pressure here. We need them all to keep fighting. We need her to keep creating this rift, right? On one end, we have that booger-eating, closet homosexual neo-Nazi, Nick Fuentes. He's doing a lot of work to split the right in two right now. And him versus Ben Shapiro versus Tucker Carlson versus Ted Cruz, all of them are just having a great fight. But on the other end, we really needed Candace Owens to keep doing the battle between Turning Point USA, everyone involved in that, including Jack Posobiec, and then her side of the fence, where there's a lot of people, especially all of the conspiratorial right, the Ian Carrolls. You can see in her replies all the people who are like, we are Team Candace, we stand before you, you are the only truth teller now, the only one revealing the truth. All of them live in a world of cartoonish delusion, right? Like, none of them have any grasp on the reality of how the world actually works at this point. It's all just so many dangerous individuals who are untethered, who actually believe that right now there was a conspiracy involving both Israel, France, Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron, and the Canadian government in order to assassinate either Charlie Kirk to take him down because he was apparently being a little too critical privately behind the scenes of Israel or something related to that, but now to take down Candace Owens because she has involved herself, because she's the only one who has revealed the fact that Brigitte Macron has a penis. And again, this has gone so far beyond the limits of Alex Jones, in that if Alex Jones had gotten to this level of a conspiracy theory, and one that was this batshit, no one would believe him beyond Alex Jones fans. Right? Like, there is not a world in which Alex Jones can tell you about like Satanist, trans chimera living on Mars who are controlling the devil and utilizing that in conjunction with the deep state to like that only works to Infowars.com listeners, and even then, not all of them. Right? Like all that kind of stuff is kind of just like, right, sure, Alex. Yeah, okay, all right, come on, hit the bottle, buddy. Get back in there, keep doing your work. And in this case, we have Candace Owens. She is not revered or even seen in the same kind of batshit light that Alex Jones is. But we have something now, and her claims now, that have gotten to those levels. So I'm kind of worried it's about to all implode. And it's going to implode before the funniest possible things could happen, right? Like, if anything, this will probably be permanently damaging to the rise of Candace Owens more than anyone else. Whereas the angle she was going, she could have started and provoked a full-blown war between Erika Kirk, Turning Point USA, every single right-winger who wants to be involved in, praising Charlie Kirk endlessly, Benny Johnson, Daily Wire, all of that, versus the other side, the other team that is now formed, which is, the Tucker Carlsons, the Nick Fuentes, the Candace Owens. They are all very, very now heavily invested on being on the other team and the other side of this. Megyn Kelly as well, right? And instead, you might just have one person kind of completely self-destruct, which is Candace.
Being a little hypocritical from me, but not from random punters or political commentators. But for Candace, there's your dead friend's wife. Read the room, girl, But people noticed and recoiled when a French rumor became Candace's obsession.
Even if she settles the lawsuit, she'll say she was forced to settle at gunpoint. But here's the thing. She's going to be limited in how far she can keep doing that. So she settles for, let's just say, $10 million, an amount she can pay without having to go full like InfoWars, I got to sell my assets kind of stuff, right? So she settles for, an undisclosed amount, probably pretty high, but enough that they know she's going to shut the fuck up about this and stop talking about Brigitte Macron's penis. So at that point, she then comes forward and says something like you're suggesting. I actually had a French legionnaire show up to my office, point a baton at my face and say that I have to read from the following note. Well, then the next day there's another lawsuit. the next day they're going to be like, a new lawsuit has been launched from the president of France that they in fact did not send the legionnaire to her house to point a gun at her face and force her. Like, it's the same thing. Like, there's a point with these people where they can't keep on pushing more conspiracy, and that point is litigation. right? It's the reason why Tim Pool, for an example, shut the fuck up on trying to spread rumors that that neo-Nazi who killed a bunch of people who was actually watching episodes of his show, he actually spread malicious rumors that it was in fact a completely different individual who had a similar name, and that individual ended up suing him. And he sued a lot of people. He sued him, he sued Steven Crowder, that's where we got that really funny Steven Crowder deposition, and all of them settled out of court, and we don't know what for or how much, or even if it was for a fiduciary amount, but we just know that they settled for something of which the party who was suing them was left satisfied. So at that point, none of them talk about it anymore, because why would you? Why would I open myself up to a second lawsuit just by being like, well, it was actually the deep state that was coming down and the guy showed up and it was in fact him and he did it. It's like, okay, you just created another payday for me. Hello, lawyer. Yep. The guy said it a second time. What? On a show? Yeah, he's doing it right. I'm watching it right now. Don't worry, I'm recording it. Great. Awesome. Oh, cool. Nice. No, I've wanted a speedboat, so this is fun. All right, cool. Yeah, send it my way. I'm excited. Neat. We'll see.
The Brigitte Macron conspiracy is the clearest example of how far Candace has drifted. She didn't invent it, but she did globalize it. And yes, she's been talking about it for a while, but bear with me. The Brigitte Macron is secretly a man conspiracy began back in 2021, a 4-hour video by French bloggers Amandine Roy and Natasha Ray. It stayed French until Candace picked it up. In March 2024, she said, "I would stake my entire professional reputation on the fact that Brigitte Macron is in fact..."
No notes. I love this so much. I would stake my entire professional reputation on the fact that Brigitte Macron has a penis. Amazing. Amazing. Yes.
A man. She then released an 8-part podcast series, Becoming Brigitte, platforming the original conspiracy theorists from paranoia. And say what you want about Candace, and believe me, there is a lot to say, but you can't deny she's a talented broadcaster. She works hard.
Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to tell everyone you should go subscribe to Channel 100 News with Evie. I'm going to share the link so all of you can have it. Don't worry, I'm going to finish this. It's fascinating, well produced, and I like the use of all the documentary music. I think it's very, very well put together. But this is where the two of us are going to, I think, completely separate in our opinions. I don't want to give Candace any credit whatsoever. And this is not because I think that the content producer who's making this is not aware of her lifetime of bigotry, hatred, racism, transphobia, homophobia, etc., conspiracy theories extraordinaire. Candace Owens has been spewing and spreading so much hate, damaging so many people, hurting so many people, causing so much evil in the world for such a long time. And yes, she can be doing all of that as someone who has talent in her position. That part is entirely true. The fact that she left Daily Wire and did so and climbed, like, surpassed them. Like I've said before, if you watch her live broadcasts, because I think they're pre-recorded shows that are just like streaming live, but either way, she's getting 150,000 to 200,000 live viewers. She is schooling the rest of the right pundits. She is in a class in and of herself. She has found a lot of lanes and a lot of ways to grow her channel exponentially, starting first with the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively stuff, pulling in a whole bunch of new audience members because of that, becoming one of the central figures reporting on everything that was happening in that trial. She was capable of rising above all of her contemporaries. And in doing that, she became a force to be reckoned with, in which now people like Ben Shapiro are irrelevant on the right. Their channel is in decay, their numbers are in the toilet. People don't care as much about someone talking about how you should actually support Trump no matter what he does, and Israel and the relationship between the US and Israel, even if they're committing a genocide, and everyone seems to be really upset about that on the left and the right, and we're all so sick of watching all of the walls of dead children, etc. You still have to support Israel because they're benevolent. Everyone hates this shit, and no one cares about Ben Shapiro. So she has outclassed them, surpassed them, destroyed and defeated them in any kind of metric in terms of, you used to be on this network, you left the network, now you're super famous. But the idea of being like, what's happening to Candace Owens right now could be because you are watching someone who is unable to properly process grief and is doing so publicly. I don't give two fucks. in the case of Candace Owens specifically, because again, she is a vile hate monger. And I feel the same way when you watch rich and powerful billionaires who have done so much damage. Like if I saw, or when you read the headlines of Elon Musk, there's another really good example. Elon Musk is taking so much ketamine that he's pissing himself publicly in the halls of power in the White House. I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. Wow. Let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about his embarrassments, because again, this guy is causing so much damage in the world. There is nothing in terms of, like, at a certain point, I'm going to have some empathy towards that vile monster. The US aid cuts that he's personally responsible for overseeing under Doge have apparently killed already an estimated 600,000 people in countries in Africa, including poor people in Uganda, students, people who were starving, people who needed life-saving medication. Those are the real life people who suffer because of the monsters on the other end who think that it's so fucking based and epic to be the Dodge commander or Doge commander or whatever the fuck he was calling himself. That shit is all just like fun and memes until, again, hundreds of thousands of children are starving to death. So I have no sympathy or empathy for any of them. And if that is the case, because sure, I'll never truly know whether or not she believes any of the things she says, whether she believes any conspiracies like that she puts out there. This could be someone who was so stricken with grief after Charlie Kirk was assassinated that she went into a state of complete hyperparanoia and has since been doing so with a very powerful audience. But at least all of them are flailing and using it to attack one another. And that's what's so glorious about all this, is that this has been a series of weeks and months now where it has been Candace Owens versus Turning Point USA, Candace Owens versus a whole bunch of right-wing pundits, not Candace Owens versus trans kids for a change, you know, not Candace Owens versus people who have very hard lives, who are very afraid, who are struggling under a current system where you have a fascistic government who is oppressing its own people, and every single day that she goes on there in front of 150,000 live viewers and then millions more afterwards, goes out, spews bile, spews lies that actually gets people who are not powerful enough to fight back actual material damage. That is the reality of a lot of this. For people, when they go after, say, immigrants, when they go after impoverished people in poor communities, when they go after indigenous people who are living on reserves and stuff like that, these are people who do not have the power to hire lawyers to sue her. These are people who do not have the power to contact the government and be like, can you please shut this down, right? So the fact that she is now choosing very powerful targets, such as the Israeli government, whom I despise, or say Turning Point USA, whom I despise, or say the Trump administration, whom I despise, or even Emmanuel Macron, whom I despise. In every one of those cases, let them fight. Let all of them fight in perpetuity.
Research is hard. She's articulate, self-assured, she's fearless, honestly, far too fearless for her own good. But she is also a woman who watched her friend die on camera, probably replayed the clip over and over. Grief like that does something to a person, especially someone already operating at her level of intensity. And instead of support, the conservative world closed its doors. She wasn't invited to Charlie's memorial. She was pushed further to the fringe, and then she was rewarded online for spiraling. That is a dangerous combination, because when very smart, very intense people with really big platforms feel sidelined, betrayed, punished, misunderstood, alone, their thinking can tip into grand conspiracies. Conspiracies feel like clarity. Conspiracies feel like control. Conspiracies feel like justice when the world feels chaotic.
And for any person on an individual level who's experiencing that, again, that is an absolute tragedy, and that's very sad, and they should have support systems, either friends, family, or even institutional ones, if they can go to a doctor to be able to get help in those kind of situations. And I hope that we work towards a better world in which people who, again, going through that kind of situation will have access to that. For someone who is horrifyingly wretched, awful, and again is working towards attacking the very people who deserve more love in this world, no, zero empathy. Absolutely none whatsoever. Let them fight. Let them all fight. Again, forever. I can't believe I haven't used this yet.
She's trying to explain why a friend was taken from her, and she can't. What we're watching isn't just a political radicalization, it's a psychological unraveling happening in real time. And she's always been saying crazy stuff, and she's always liked a conspiracy, but at the moment she really thinks there are multiple assassination plots against her and other people she knows, and I don't think people should be encouraging her right now. And there are real consequences coming. The French lawsuit could force her under oath. Her conspiracies may isolate her even further from conservative media or anyone in her life who could say, hey, calm down. Her audience may drag her deeper into this loop, and her audiences listen to her. So the real question is, does Candace Owens truly believe she is being hunted by governments, billionaires, foreign intelligence agencies, and the widow of her dead friend? Because if she does, that's not commentary or strategy or a brand. That's a woman who is just not okay. And whether you agree with her or not, let's just say not, it's hard not to see the through line here. A friend died, a community closed its doors, and Candace Owens stepped into a world where everything is suddenly connected and everyone is after her. It's sad. Sorry. I don't want to sit here being super nice to Candace. She says really crazy stuff, but like, you know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from, and again, zero empathy whatsoever. I will show her the same amount of grace that she has shown to every single minority and vulnerable community that she has spread hatred towards throughout the totality of her career, which is none.
So thank you so much to our patrons for making this show possible. We could not fund it without you. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus episodes, uncensored content, and all the good stuff. Thanks to Anna Loves Riley, Addercap, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hegbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet One 85, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Tigwick, and Words Greenwood.